This is Matt's Music. Today I am joined by Joe McElroy from the band Comrades. They just released their album For We Are Not Yet, We Are Only Becoming today, June 7th. Before we get into all that though, let's start with a little bit of the background of the band. Who is Comrades and what style of music do you play?
Well, so Comrades is a three-piece band, just guitar, bass, and drums. Our bassist Laura, she's my wife actually, we're married, and she does most of the singing, and then our drummer, John, does most of the yelling stuff and a little bit of singing, and I do my best to keep my mouth shut. But we sometimes call it post-rock. It gets called post-hardcore, too. It's, we've done the post-rock thing with a lot of reverb and stuff like that, but we have some very technical, mathy parts, and we have screaming, so it's, a lot heavier than that. A lot of the bands that we'll tour with and stuff are more hardcore and stuff like that. So,
So your wife, Laura, is the bass player and vocalist.
Yep.
How does that affect the band dynamic?
We're definitely not a normal band. I mean, there's me and my wife are married, and then so John hangs out, and it's very relaxed in terms of, everybody's schedule. Some of the drama that bands have to deal with in terms of scheduling and interpersonal stuff isn't as big of a deal, but there's other challenges to that just because, my wife and I are with each other 24/7, and we never get time alone, and neither one of us makes much money. So we have that whole thing we're up against. A lot of bands that are on tour, at least they've got a spouse back home with a decent job or something like that. So, there's it's just a very different dynamic, but it's definitely a more peaceful scenario just because we all know each other pretty well and we're all pretty, relaxed people when we're on tour. So, we don't have a lot of, big issues that come up or anything,
And what's your process for coming up with the concepts and lyrics for songs?
Well, so this album, Laura actually wrote the majority of the lyrics for the whole album. And she actually had a lot of stuff she'd been working on for really a long time. But John and I had started working on the music a little bit independently. And once we had a few songs, kind of a direction of the, where the sound was going to go, we started showing that to Laura. And then she kind of just figured out exactly how, what songs are supposed to say what things and how the words she had fit with different things. And, then we change up the songs and stuff to fit around what she's written. But she does most of the work in terms of all the lyric stuff and the actual concept of what's happening.
And in terms of your sound, what bands influence you or inspire you?
We come from a pretty wide range of styles, and we've been a band for a while. So some of our influences date back, to when I was in high school, over 10 years ago at this point. There's a lot of stuff from bands like Thrice and Me Without You and stuff like that. I personally took a lot of influence on my guitar playing from some of the, faster punk and screamo bands like, bands like Stacia and Paul Troy and stuff like that, even into that math rock world a little bit. Well, we don't play stuff that technical. We have a little bit of that influence at this point, but a lot of our stuff now gets more into the world of post-rock, and there's a lot more delay and reverb and stuff like that. And John, our drummer, has been mostly in hardcore bands his whole life, and there's definitely a big part of that, of the fact that a lot of our heavier parts are based in stuff that's from the end of hardcore rather than the end of post-rock.
What is the message you are trying to convey with your music? What statement do you want people to get from it?
Well, I think more than a specific statement is I want the music to be a background and kind of a place that people can go, when they're dealing with the tough things that happen in life. There's a lot of, we've been through a lot of heartache and sorrow as individuals and even as a band and stuff, a few years back, and struggles are real and there's a lot of pain that happens in life. And, if we can have music that, helps somebody get through that kind of stuff, that's, it's a lot of our songs deal with some of the pain and some of the heartache that's happened, but they also have there's an ending to it. There's a place of hey, this is a terrible thing that happened, but here's hope and here's future and here's the fact that things aren't over, So yeah, I that's a lot of words, but
that's all right. It was clear what you were trying to get across. A lot of bands nowadays don't quite go for that sound where they just throw together a bunch of words that sound cool. And I'm happy. I'm happy that you guys put some thought into your music.
Thank you.
And you've been playing with Comrades for years now and done extensive touring across the U.S. What are some of your favorite shows that you've played?
Yeah, we've we've been touring for a long time, and a lot of it has been, pretty DIY, a lot of basements and garages and small places like that. And there are definitely a few that come to mind. Like, I remember we played a show in, a guy who's a friend of ours now hit us up on the internet and said, "Hey, do you want to play in North Idaho at Coeur d'Alene?" And it was kind of on our way from one show to another, and we had a day off, and we were like, "That'd be awesome." Never played there, never even really heard of that. We ended up going up there and showed up at this show, and it was in a basement of a house. Man, it was just, the kids there just went off so hard. And I remember the ceiling was only about 6 feet high. So we were, kind of ducking already and trying not to hit our guitars on the ceiling. And there was like kids like crowd surfing and stuff somehow between the ceiling and people. And it was just chaos. I broke a lamp, somebody's lamp I broke. And it was just a really, really, it was one of those things that was like, man, that's like a punk documentary from the 80s. Like, that was a really cool experience. But that's one that sticks in my mind. We played a festival quite a few years now, called Audio Seed, down in Illinois. And for some reason, people there have been really, really cool to us. And it's just wild. We're a band that's used to playing in somebody's basement for 25 people, and, coming there and there's 1,000 people there waiting to watch us play. That was a really humbling and awesome experience as well. That's just I don't know, it's just very, very, very beautiful experience.
Yeah, that's quite the jump.
Definitely two that stick in my mind. There was one more that I was thinking about too, and that was the first time that we ever went to Europe. We showed up in Europe. I've never played a show in Europe before. I have no idea what it's going to be like. We're at a festival in Germany, and we, had borrowed everything. Amp, we've been borrowing somebody's guitar. It was just, everything was uncomfortable and stressful. And we got on stage in a country that I've never been to before, and there's just like a room full of 800 people there that are like super stoked on what we're doing. And I'm like, how do you even know who we are? Like, we're this little tiny band from America. And that was a really moment that kind of sticks in your mind forever.
And your faith shines through in your lyrics and through your social media. It was very clear that it's a big part of your life. Are there any moments on tour or as a band together where you can't help but think that God protected you or God helped you out?
Oh, yeah. We're not a band that preaches or anything, but it's pretty clear what we believe through our songs and stuff like that. And, I think that there's a lot of times, especially earlier on, where there was just, we very much had we had no guarantees from getting paid. We had, back then gas was $4.50 a gallon, and it was pretty hard being on the road. And, there were just a lot of times that something would come through at the last minute, provision-wise, and we'd end up with a place to stay. We'd end up with somebody buying us a tank of fuel. We'd end up with somebody giving us free food at a restaurant or something like that just really took care of us and provided for us in great ways. And, we haven't had any, since we haven't had any dangerous experiences. A guy tried to mug our drummer in Trenton, New Jersey once, but the guy was pretty drunk and out of his mind, and it was pretty easy to escape that. So I won't go into that one. But yeah, we've just seen a lot of really cool ways that there's been provision. This life doesn't have real money in it, and we're all adults that, have families and have to figure out how this all works out. And the fact that, we've been able to keep doing this seems like a lot of provision to me.
Yeah, God has looked out for you along your journey, that's for sure. And listening to the new album, For We Are Not Yet, We Are Only Becoming, what is the theme for that album? What were you trying to tell the audience through your music? What do you want them to think about when they listen to it?
In life, there's a lot of struggle. There's a lot of things that, people take advantage of other people. There's, heartbreak. There's a lot of things that are negative that happen. And, this album is kind of like, it definitely delves into a lot of that stuff pretty seriously, but also in a way where, we can say, hey, like, these are some of the bad things that happen, but there is hope. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. And I really think that's like a really powerful part of this album. And what we wanted to convey was just that, like, yeah, like, things are hard. And like, sometimes there's people, I don't know, like, there's songs and stuff that people sing in church, and they're, pretty happy and, sometimes pretty basic. And like, the fact is that like life isn't that way. It doesn't look that way all the time. And there's a lot of hardship out there, but there are ways to go through it, and there's hope, and there's a future,
Yeah, that's one of the things I liked most when I listened through the album is it's clear that you are coming from this from a Christian perspective, but a lot of the Christian bands out there tend to stray away from the darker side of people in general, because it's not all happy puppies and roses. Life doesn't work like that, and it's always good. I find when a band acknowledges that and makes music for people who are struggling, or to show that there's hope for those who are struggling. And your album really hits on that. It goes through that no matter where you are, you can always go to a better place. Or like your song No Past, for example. It's one of my favorites on the album, and I'm not just saying that. It is a really good song, along with Half-Light. I love both of those songs. And I wanted to ask you, what is the meaning behind that song specifically?
Well, so here's where I pull up my sheet of the lyrics. So Laura actually wrote out a whole she wrote like a research essay for every song, and there's like a whole lyric book along with it. And I'm actually gonna go to this because Laura wrote this song, so I want to make sure I get what she was trying to say. Don't just give you an easy answer.
Right.
Well, it says, so many people ask why God would let things happen. It feels elementary, like foundational. It's a question that leads in many directions, and that even goes to like the why do bad things happen to good people and all that sort of stuff. But it says but the thing with God is that no matter the depth of wrong, he sees the soul at the bottom. And I think that, that's the way the song starts out. God, what is it like as a father watching your children destroying each other? And it says, the darkness is not dark to you. That's a really interesting concept, just because in our, when we're going through hardship, when we're going through struggle, we see the situation as it affects us or as it affects someone else. And we don't see that in light of future or past generally. And, there's not an easy answer to why do terrible things happen and why do people go through, hardship and struggle and stuff. But the reality is that there is a future and there is a past, and there are things that we can't explain, that we can't see. And so this, I'll take this into the next part. The one thing I thought was really cool that Laura wrote about this, is the idea that she was writing about thinking, we have a restaurant next to our house and there are people sitting outside on the patio, and you can hear maybe 20 different people having conversation. You can't quite pick out what's happening, but you can tell it's all going on. And the idea that when we go through, when a person goes through a struggle or a hardship or, something violent happens, we're overwhelmed just by that one instant, that one terrible thing that happens. Yet God is in the midst of millions of people having millions of things happening all around the world at once. And the idea of what must it be like to be in those shoes, to be in that idea of having so many different children, so many different stories, that many of them have hurts all happening at once. And I thought that was a really just crazy thing to think about, because we always think about something that happens as one specific thing, but there are so many different stories happening all at once. And I don't know, yeah, it was just that was a really crazy thing to think about as I read it. But a lot of this, there's also a song in this line in this song about doubt is but a shadow cast, for with him there is no past. Doubts and questions and stuff, there's a lot of these questions are big and don't have an easy answer, sometimes not even any answer at all. And she wrote, when we address things we cannot comprehend, we inevitably come face to face with doubt. Sometimes it lingers like smoke on a still day, others it blasts through our minds. We either brace for it or we hit the ground. We brush off our bruised knees and make the choice to pursue or to relent. These days, doubt doesn't shake me like it used to. Everyone needs to learn to process it in their own way, but it has no death knell any longer. And that's just an interesting thing of seeing the fact that something happens that is bad, the fact that there are terrible things happening in the world, that doesn't mean that there isn't good. That doesn't mean that there isn't also hope and purpose and healing and reconciliation and that kind of thing. And that's something that's really hard to see in the moment. But, I think one of the things about this song that, resonates with me a lot is that we don't have to have an answer to every question. We don't have to fully grasp the vastness of what goes on in life. We simply have to try to do our best to heal from things. And yeah, so hopefully that makes some sense. I'm saying a lot of words here.
No, it makes a lot of sense. And you just said that you're reading this from the lyric book for your upcoming album.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and Laura wrote like about every song. There's a bunch of quotes and different, different like kind of the reasoning behind why she wrote each song. And there's like, I mean, even in this, there's, that one part of the song comes straight from Psalms. It's 139:12. It's even the darkness is not dark to you and conceals nothing from you. But the night shines as bright as the day. Darkness and light are alike to you. And I thought that was something that was, it sounds like such a basic thing to say, but the idea that, something that seems dark to us or seems, inconceivably bad, that there can be good that comes out of any situation. There can be healing. There can be hope.
I'm very much looking forward to reading everything that she's written. The songs are, just looking at the lyrics, they're well thought out. And I'm curious what the different explanations for the songs are. And I'm very much looking forward to my copy of the album.
Yeah, the book thing, I'm really excited that Laura went through with that. She worked on it for like 2 months, trying to just gather all the sources she used for everything and coming up with explanations for what everything was. And I just think it's such a cool, like, there is so much meaning behind a lot of people's songs, and being able to share that and have people really understand where we're coming from is really cool. It's a huge thing. It's not like included with the album or anything.
Oh, it's not included. It's
a whole big, like, it's like 30 pages.
Oh,
big book.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
how will the book be released?
So we were trying to make sure. We actually just got yesterday. We got the all the final proofs for it. So it's going to be released. It is going to be printed, and we're going to sell it, not for much money, but it's going to be printed and sold both through the label, and we'll have it at our shows and stuff at the merch table. And then we're also going to have a downloadable version that we can send as well.
That is going to be really interesting. I'm going to have to pick up a copy of that too then.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's just like a whole other layer of depth that we've never, had with an album release before, that I'm really excited for people to understand.
I don't know of many other bands that have added a depth like what you're describing to their music, to their songs that they've released, and it makes me excited.
Well, thank you so much.
So far, the final question to you is a bit of an oddball question. If anybody has ever gone to my site, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. What would win in a fight, an emu or an ostrich?
Ooh, see, so I haven't been to your site yet.
Oh, well, you should check it out and vote.
Trying to figure out if there's like an inside answer to this, or if this is just face value here.
It's face value. What would win in a fight? I had to clarify this with the last person I interviewed. A fight to the death, because they were like,
oh, wow.
So what would win, an emu or an ostrich?
So, okay, this is a really basic answer, but I think I have to go with the emu. I don't know. It's just generally the Australian version of whatever the rest of the world has is just way more tough.
Yeah, you're incredibly right. It is. Like ostriches are tough. Ostriches are tough. They're large birds too. I didn't realize.
Oh yeah, they're huge, but
they're massive.
I don't know. And an emu sounds like a really mean animal.
Yeah. They won a war against the Australian government one time.
What?
100% serious. The Australian government went to war with them, and while there were more casualties on the emu side, they showed advanced tactics against the Australian government and ended up winning. Absolutely ridiculous.
That's wild.
Yeah. It's wow. You're incredibly right when you say everything in Australia is just far more crazier.
Yeah, they just don't mess around down there.
No. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. I really appreciate you giving up your time like this.
Absolutely. This is great.
Is there anything that you'd like to tell any of my audience?
I mean, I'm really grateful that this album turned out the way it did, and that we're able to release it, and hopefully, through this and other things we're doing, more and more people can hear about it. It's something that's really personal to us, and yeah, just thank you all so much for taking your time to look into this.
All right, and thank you again for coming on. That was Joe McElroy from the band Comrades. Their new album, For We Are Not Yet, We Are Only Becoming, released today. You can find it on Apple Music and Spotify, and don't forget to check the band out online at wearecomrades.com. I'd also like to announce that we are giving away a vinyl of the new album by Comrades, courtesy of Face Down Records. Thank you very much. I am very excited about this one. It's a great album. Trust me, I've listened to it over 7 times. They've put a lot of thought into the lyrics and meaning behind each and every single one of those songs on the record, and I promise that you will enjoy the album. For your chance to win the vinyl of the new album, head over to matsmusic.ca/contests for more information. There are many ways to enter to increase your chance of winning. Once again, we are giving you a vinyl of the new album by Comrades. Head over to matsmusic.ca/contests for all the information you need to win. We're going to hear from Comrades now. Here is No Past on Matt's Music.